Journey fans don't usually think of Neal Schon first. It's not often that you see his face at emotional gatherings or on TV getting lots of praise. He started Journey, though, and strangely, he is the last man standing in the band he made. Steve Perry left the room. Jonathan Cain battled. These people either gave up or got lost. Neal wouldn't give up, though. Maybe someone who was always angry or who never learned how to let go. He fought silently for decades against the business, his friends, and even the people who used to hug him on stage. Others called him a spendthrift, a dictator, and an old soul that wouldn't change. Others say he was the one who blocked the voice that made Journey great. It could have been something else, though. Millions of loyal friends and hits that will never go away. But one question has never been answered. Who actually broke up Journey? And does Neal Schon keep the band living, or is he just holding on to its dead body? In this article, we will explore Neal Schon's stormy life, including his fiery highs and quiet, painful lows. It was one man who never stopped moving forward on a road called Journey. Beginnings. Neal Joseph Schon was born at Tinker Air Force Base, Oklahoma, on February 27, 1954. He grew up in a home where music was more than just a hobby, it was life. Matthew Schon, his father, was a jazz artist who played trumpet in swing bands. His mother could sing in the traditional style. In their simple home, there were no long moral discussions or serious family gatherings. Instead, there was music that echoed like a prayer said every night. Neal and his family moved to San Mateo, California, when he was 4 years old. That's where it all started. A calm neighborhood, but Neal, when he was young, always felt like something was missing. Kids his age liked sports, video games, and going on picnics on the weekends. Namaste, Neal. He only liked one thing: the sound of strings and the way it would felt under his fingers. No one taught him how to play the guitar when he was 10. It wasn't necessary. He learned by hearing and reading a lot. He listened to Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Santana, and then played each solo like he was talking to them through the notes. Nobody made him work out for 6 hours every day. Anytime the outside world seemed too loud or fake, the guitar called him back. Neal never seriously felt like he belonged at school. No one at his California high school remembered his name for grades. He was known as the kid who clung to his guitar like he was trying to run away from everything. His teachers said he was hard to fit in with the other kids. Others thought he was strange. Neal really did not want to fit in, though. In his fantasy world, the guitar was the only thing that made him feel safe. He had an oddly close and faraway bond with his parents. His father was a singer and knew how lonely being talented can be. But he never had too much control over his son. He once told her, "If you really want to go that way, let music be your friend, not me." It was both a warning and an invitation. And Neal knew from a very young age that geniuses shouldn't be spoiled. Smarts must be able to live on their own. Neal asked himself, if I lost my voice tomorrow, would anyone remember me? When he was 12 years old. The reply scared him. From then on, he chose the guitar to be his only instrument. He told Rolling Stone years later, "I am not sure when I began playing the guitar. I remember that as soon as I realized I was self-aware, I needed it like humans need air." Whenever Neal Schon became aware of himself, he knew he wasn't part of anything normal. Beginners in their careers. Neal Schon has never worked in the music business. The business pulled him in quickly and boldly, leaving the 15-year-old boy with almost no time to turn around. The year was 1969. It was huge when Santana played fiery Latin rock music. Famous guitarist Carlos Santana was called one of the live icons of rock music. Later one day, a kid with no name was trying out a Gibson Les Paul in a Berkeley music shop, and Carlos heard them. He didn't ask the boy if he wanted to try out a few minutes later. He just asked, "Are you ready to join us on stage?" Neal was only 15 years old and still in high school, but music was everything to him. He dropped out after a few weeks. Not any papers or goodbyes, just a choice that seemed like it had to be made. Take the stage with Santana, a band that would play at Woodstock the following year. It was known to everyone, but no one said it out loud. That Neal might lose his job before it even starts if he fails. But Neal did more than just stay alive. He was noticeable. He wasn't as good at playing the guitar as Carlos Santana. It was rougher and more honest, with a dark and urgent tone. There was no fading of his presence, even though he was the youngest member of the band. He went after every solo like the world had taken something away from him. Neal Schon made an impression as a second guitarist on two important Santana records, Santana 3, 1971, and Caravanserai, 1972. He never blended in with the background. He never stood in the way of Carlos, but he also never let being a shadow get boring. That may have been the exact thing that caused things to change. Neal quit the band one day in a quiet way. He quit not because he was angry or upset, but because he couldn't keep playing songs he didn't believe in. The band was playing deep philosophy jazz under the direction of Carlos Santana. The music was full of spiritual and intellectual meaning. Neal, on the other hand, was still a teenager with a blues heart. He just wanted to play rock, soul, and a simple, deep kind of sadness. Neal had only a guitar and a strong will when he left Santana before he turned 18. Big-name bands tried to get him to join, but he refused to do so. He didn't want to be famous. He was set on making his own road, which he meant to name Journey one day. There was a warning in Neal Schon's music background before that trip, though. Meeting Neal will make you realize that you don't need time to get better before you can play like a star. A successful career. Neal Schon stood at a crossroads after quitting Santana before he turned 18. He had such great skill that he could have made a living as a session player for well-known bands. Shin never liked being comfortable, though. He didn't become a musician to make money. His mission was to make something new. Neal started Journey with guitarist Greg Rowley, who was also a member of Santana, in 1973. The band didn't have a plan, was not driven by the market, and wasn't under any management pressure. In the beginning, they played a sound that was a mix of progressive rock and jazz fusion. It was technically difficult and musically complicated, like music made by artists who are passionate about what they do instead of making money. 3 records were made by them. Next, take a trip and look into the future. Reviewers gave it high marks, but sales were disappointing. Columbia Records made it clear by 1977, change or go away. At that point, a very important choice was made. Neal Schon agreed to change because he started the band and is its singing soul. And while he didn't give up his soul for pop, he did look for a voice that could help their music reach a lot of people. At that point, Steve Perry showed up. Perry had a powerful, emotional, and easy-to-understand alto voice that not many people have. Journey's music was totally changed when Neal's layered guitar work and Perry's beautiful vocals came together. Infinity, 1978, was the big step forward. Lights and Wheel in the Sky were Journey's first hits that got them into the Billboard Top 40. Neal's solos went from long and complicated to short, emotional riffs that backed up Perry's speech. Journey became more well-known with the release of their next 2 albums, Evolution, 1979, and Departure, 1980. But Escape, 1981, their true masterpiece, was the high point. It was not only Journey's best album, but also a landmark album for 1980s rock. In the US, the record went triple platinum in less than a year and sold more than 12 million copies. The song Don't Stop Believin' became the best-selling rock band digital song of all time. But the numbers weren't the only thing that made it work. Neal Schon was the one who made the music. He set up songs like Open Arms, Faithfully, and Who's Crying Now, wrote riffs, and arranged them so Perry's voice could soar. He kept the depth and power of his guitar lines the same. His actions were different from what most guitarists would do. He ignored his pride so the band could progress. As a matter of strategy, it was a sacrifice that set the stage for future disaster. It was clear that Journey was a hit. Their tours were always sold out, and they became a big part of American pop culture. But there was a quiet tug-of-war going on behind the scenes. Steve Perry became more and more well-known. The face on magazine covers, the voice of Journey, and the name the press used whenever Journey was talked about. Neal started the band and helped shape its sound, but over time he was seen as little more than the guitarist who backed up a great voice. That made things worse between Perry and Schon. Perry started to expect more say over the band's music, tour plans, and even who got to record and who didn't. At the same time, Neal, who had once stepped back to help the band, felt like he was losing the very thing he had made. Feeling inside Journey was like being in a billion-dollar business where the owners no longer talked to each other. Fans stuck with them through many albums, shows, and singles. But trust was broken. Perry felt alone. Neal became alert. No longer did they have the same artistic goals or trust each other. After the death of his mother in 1987, Steve Perry quietly quit the band without making a public comment. While Neal looked for a new singer to keep Journey going, everyone knew that the band would never be the same without that voice. As late as 1996, it looked like a miraculous reuniting was on the way. Perry came back to Journey to make a new album, which became a platinum hit and was even better than expected. An excursion was planned. A huge number of fans were thrilled. Perry then hurt his hip while hiking in Hawaii. The doctors told us to have surgery. Perry wasn't sure. He needed some time to get better, think, and maybe even find the love he had lost again. Neal did not wish to observe, however. Journey was like a machine, and if a gear stops for too long, it gets turned over. Neal and the other members of the band agreed to go on tour without Perry. No warning, delay, or negotiation was given when they looked for a new singer. It was just a cold statement. The plan is coming together. Perry said no to the surgery, but this was the bigger hurt. He were unable to go back to anything. He wasn't on the trip anymore. After years, the anger was put into words. Stephen Perry told GQ magazine in 2008 that he felt like a stranger in his own band. He said Neal Schon had changed so much that he could no longer connect with him. Neal did not continue to speak. A different interview later, he answered back. He only whines. Perry believes that his name makes us worthwhile. However, he did leave, and we were able to stay alive. It wasn't just a personal fight that led to these public jabs. They showed the sorrow at the heart of Journey. When fame, art, friendship, and power all come together, trust is the first thing to go. No matter what, Neal Schon started a fight by himself to keep the power he had built from falling apart. He was not going to let Journey die. But because he was so determined, people saw him as a control freak stuck in the past. At the same time, Perry, the person who left, became a mythical figure as a fallen angel. Additionally, the question stays. Maybe Neal Schon can't handle Journey by himself anymore. Or does Neal's hold on to Journey keep her alive forever? Arguments in court and the rift with Jonathan Cain. Many people thought that Neal Schon had finally taken full control of the company he had built when Steve Perry left. There won't be any more creative disagreements or power battles over the direction of art. No one thought the next fight would come from someone who stayed, though. Jeremy Cain. Cain, the pianist who had been with Journey since 1980, had been Schon's friend, co-worker, and right-hand man for a long time. The two of them wrote Don't Stop Believin' together, supported the band even after Perry left, and they helped it survive in the digital world. But after more than 30 years, political and financial issues, not music, caused that relationship to start to fall apart. Tensions started to rise in 2020 when loud conservative Jonathan Cain let Donald Trump play Don't Stop Believin' at political events, like at Mar-a-Lago and big rallies. Schon wasn't asked what he thought because he had his own ideas and thought Journey's music should stay neutral and not be about politics. The thing that bothered him the most was that the name Journey was now connected to controversial ideas that he didn't agree with. The problem turned into a cold war between the two band heads very quickly. Requested in public that the name of the band not be used at political events. Cain refused and wouldn't give up. Do not negotiate. The disagreement grew into a full-on court case in 2022. Neal Schon was sued by Jonathan Cain for misusing the band's credit card. Cain said that Schon spent tens of thousands of dollars on personal things. $1,500 a night for hotels, private protection, first-class flights, and even private jets. Schon didn't avoid talking. He responded by saying that Cain was stopping him from seeing his financial records and that he had no choice but to use the card to keep an eye on spending and protect the Journey brand. He said in his paper that Cain and his minister wife, Paula White, who is also Trump's spiritual advisor, had taken over the Journey name for their own gain. The news spread the story like wildfire. Fans of the famous band Journey now saw the last two members of the group dragging each other to court, where spreadsheets, receipts, and years of mistrust were made public. This was no longer a private argument. It was an open wound that everyone could see. In the middle of the fight between Cain and Schon, Steve Perry came back out of the blue, but not with music. He came back through the courts. Perry sued his two former bandmates for patenting old Journey songs without letting anyone else use them. Songs without his permission, like Open Arms, Will in the Sky, Any Way You Want It, Don't Stop Believin', and more. Perry brought up an old deal that said any action taken about who owned a song had to be agreed upon by all initial members. Schon argued that it was just a branding process that had no effect on artistic rights. It doesn't matter who was right. Perry's case only made things worse among Journey's veterans. The song Don't Stop Believin' used to give millions of people hope. It was now proof in a fight over power and legacy. Neal Schon, who started the band and kept the flame alive for more than 50 years, was now depending on lawyers, accountants, and the media to protect the name he used to think of as family. Longtime bandmate Jonathan Cain was now a direct enemy on both a financial and an ideological level, and Steve Perry, who had left a long time ago, still watched from afar, ready to step in if needed, like a ghost that would never fully disappear from Journey's past. Personal life. If Neal Schon's first love was music, then the loves in his life from start to finish were like guitar riffs that never quite ended. There have been 5 marriages, a lot of short-lived relationships like wind blowing through guitar strings, and a wedding that was shown live on TV in front of millions of people. There was no mention of Neal's first wife in the news. They got married in the early 1970s, when Journey was just starting out and not very well known. No public pictures or articles about the relationship exist. All that is known is that it ended quickly. In interviews, Neal never talked about it. According to people close to him, they got together when they were young, before either of them knew how hard and fast the life of an artist would be. His second marriage was to Amber Kozan, and they were together for a long time. In the 1990s, they kept a low profile and had 2 children together. Amber wasn't in the entertainment business, but she was Neal's mental support system at home while he was on tour all the time. Divorce records made public show that the relationship got worse over time because of mental distance and not spending enough time together. When they broke up, Amber asked for custody and financial support, saying that Neal's frequent absences and wild spending were to blame. The split happened quietly, but it changed things for good, especially since Neal and his kids are getting farther apart. His third wife was Dina Gioeli, who was not in the show business but had worked in the fashion business before. We only know that they got married in the early 2000s and split up after a few years. No one from either side said anything in public, but friends of both said. Neal couldn't stop performing. While Dina wanted a stable, quiet life, which a guitarist who was always in the spotlight couldn't give her. In his fourth marriage, to famous 1980s Playboy model Ava Fabian, Neal was linked to a woman who had her own public image. When they got married in 2011, Ava sued Neal right away for breaking their marriage vows. The trouble started when Neal made his relationship with Michelle Salahi public. Michelle is the wife of businessman Tariq Salahi and a reality TV star who is famous for the White House party crash story. Ava said Neal lied to her and hurt her financially and emotionally. The news outlets jumped on the story because Ava is famous and Neal is still on tour with Journey. When Neal started dating Michelle Salahi, it was thought to be a PR stunt. Popular opinion didn't really like Mechalai, a controversial character from the Real Housewives of DC. The fact that Neal was seeing a married woman in public made tabloid stories, but the couple didn't care about the attention. Neal asked Mikhail to marry him on stage at a Journey concert in Baltimore in 2012. Their wedding was a huge production that was shown on TV and included carriages, fireworks, famous guests, and all the glitz from the music and media worlds. A lot of people talked about the rock wedding at the time. As of now, Michael is still Neal's wife and goes with him to events and trips. She is often in movies and social media posts with him, and since they got married, she is said to have a big impact on his personal life. Many in the music business still see the relationship as an extension of the stage, even though it's still going strong. Or getting married might even be part of the act. Through the years, Neal Schon hasn't said much about his kids in public. No interviews talk about how he is currently connected with them. For Neal, this silence has made many people think that his family was never really his home. You could go back there temporarily between tours, during backroom fights, or after a long show under the lights. Despite this, Neal does live and love deeply. Getting married, failing, or owning up to his mistakes have never scared him, but he doesn't fix them very often. Loving someone might be like a song to him. Whatever happens, he'll play it until the end, even if it's out of time or the wrong key. Life now. Neal Schon's life has a terrible irony. He has spent his whole life making songs, but now that he's older, he has to deal with constant tinnitus. A permanent effect of playing guitar on huge stages for decades, surrounded by drums, screams, and nights burned at full volume. Neighbors of Neal know that he plays music sometimes more by feel, memory, and muscle than by ear. Even so, he still tours, plays, and stands on stage like he did all summer 2024. Journey is marking its 50th anniversary by going on a huge stadium tour with Def Leppard. Even though he is in his 70s and most of his friends have retired as musicians or gone backstage, he still plays his trusted guitar and solos like time hasn't passed. Traveling in 2024 wasn't easy at all. After a run of hugely successful shows in North America, a planned run of concerts in the UK and Ireland had to be canceled at the last minute. This wasn't because of illness or problems with the market, but because of fighting within the band. The long-running fight between Neal and Jonathan Cain broke out again, this time over money and power. The tour organizer had to stop the tour to escape legal trouble. Even so, Journey got back to work after hiring an independent executive manager to help them work things out. A new tour plan for 2025 was released, which includes stops in Europe and Asia, as well as the US. Neal Schon saw this tour as more than just another one. It was a statement that the name Journey still lives, even though there was pain and disagreement, and he would do everything in his power to protect it. But just because the name stays the same doesn't mean the band stays together. There are many parts to Journey today, many families, nationalities, and tensions running through the story. Neal's lead singer for almost 20 years has been the Filipino singer Arnel Pineda, who was found on YouTube in 2007. It's hard to get past the cultural and emotional differences that Arnel brought with him. He brought youth, physical power, and a whole new group of fans. Pineda has made hints on social media that she feels alone, leaving them out of important choices and only calling them when it's time to sing. Fans got it, even though those comments were later taken back. On today's trip, Neal is the only person who can't be replaced. Even the lead singer and the other members can be switched out at the founder's choice. Neal himself knows that better than anyone else. In the past, he too was pushed to the side and had to watch his own creation escape his grasp. He now has everything, but he has to be alone. He found solitude in music, among a band he handpicked, and sometimes even amidst loud praise. New pictures of him on stage say it all. A man with silver hair stood firm. His black PRS guitar was still playing, but his eyes were darker and more serious than before. We don't hear the reckless and rebellious Neal Schon in his music anymore. Instead, we hear an artist who has given up almost everything to protect the sound of his guitar. He doesn't whine, explain, or try to get pity. Throughout the trip, he plays every night. Even though there are fights, his ears don't pick up every note, and friends come and go, he still holds on to Journey, even though there are times when he may not know why. However, Neal Schon might not be able to stop. Not playing the guitar means he has to face his biggest fear, silence. And for people who have lived their whole lives with noise, quiet can be scarier than death. Legacy and impact. The Journey has been together for more than 50 years and has been through a lot of upheaval, lineup changes, long battles, and almost breakups. Still, there has been one steady beating through all the chaos. There was a guitarist named Neal Schon who never left, even though everyone else did. He wasn't the star singer or the producer. Neal doesn't have a hit song, a guitar solo, or a signature instrument that bears his name as his most important legacy. His place in American music history will last forever as a sign of his unshakable devotion to the art he spent his whole life making. Neal's persistence stands out in a world where bands break up faster than a record cycle. Since 1973, when he helped start Journey, he wasn't just the guitarist. He was also the sound designer for the band. From their early days of complicated progressive rock to the time of arena-friendly pop rock that led to Escape and a string of multi-platinum albums, these albums shaped the band's sound. In songs like Don't Stop Believin', Faithfully, Separate Ways, and Will in the Sky, his riffs were not just background noise. They were the heart, the breath, and the clear signature of his playing. Neal made the musical structures, but he didn't write words very often. Each Journey song was built around a strong and emotional guitar tune. One of the few rock guitarists who didn't want to be the center of attention. He didn't want to overpower the singer or show off just for the sake of it. Instead, he played to serve the song, to make it more emotional, and to keep the band's energy alive. His impact isn't just limited to Journey. Neal Schon, who played with Santana when he was only 15, turned down an offer to join Eric Clapton's Derek and the Dominoes instead of going his own way. He set a standard for musicians for many years. These artists knew that sometimes they only needed to play one perfect note and let it reverberate. He never made a mark because he wanted to be in the spotlight or win big awards. The critics never liked Journey as much as they liked Led Zeppelin or The Who. Actually, Don't Stop Believin' by a rock band is the most popular digital song of all time. In the 1980s, Journey's songs were played on the radio, in movies, and in the memories of millions of people. Steve Perry was asked to talk at the 2017 induction of Journey into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. People told how inspiring Arnold Pineda's story was, but the person who had held it all together for 44 years and walked through every age of Journey got the least attention. Neal Schon was that man. He was the one who brought all the fame and the solid base that it all rested on. Today, people listen to music in short bursts, artists chase algorithms, and bands don't usually last longer than one album. Neal Schon's impact is more than just sound. You have to be dedicated to your art, strong enough to handle betrayal, quiet enough to not be heard when you're forgotten, and brave enough to keep playing, though you might not be able to hear all the notes. What do you think about Neal Schon's life? He never gave up the guitar, even when everyone else did. Will everyone fully recognize his legacy, or will he just be the quiet bass of a legend that would rather the attention be on someone else? Tell us what you think in the space below. Please rate and subscribe if you think more stories like this should be told.